Welcome back to Flashpoint. Now we hear from Republican candidate for North Carolina Attorney General Dan Bishop. Congressman Bishop, thanks for coming on Flashpoint. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Ben. Thanks for letting me be with you.
All right, right off the bat, what's the first thing you do if elected?
Restore a tight collaboration between the Attorney General and his office, the top law enforcement agency, and the law enforcement leadership around the state, the district attorneys, the sheriffs, and other municipal law enforcement leaders. That has atrophied in a way that I did not even understand the depth of when I decided to run for Attorney General. I am the candidate of law and order. I am the candidate of law enforcement. More than 75 sheriffs and district attorneys across North Carolina endorsed my candidacy. My opponent hasn't announced any law enforcement endorsements. And so that's what it's all about. That's the first and top priority, so that we can restore the effectiveness of the criminal justice system in North Carolina and people can feel safe and feel that their families are safe.
I assume that would lead to the next priority for you, and I would assume that would, tell me if I'm wrong, tackling crime, because crime is a big problem, especially in our bigger cities.
Absolutely right. Crime is at sustained 10-year highs. You hear a lot of debate out there whether somebody's, that crime has turned the corner, it's ticked down, but it remains, homicides and rapes are over 70% higher than a decade ago in North Carolina. New stats are out from the SBI 2023, and that is the case. And each of the major cities continues to see crime increases that are disturbing, including my hometown of Charlotte, where the recent stats indicate homicides up about another 30%. Juvenile crime out of control, the police chief says.
What do you do about fentanyl?
Fentanyl is, my opponent in this race says he's going to take on fentanyl because he's going to use a new money laundering statute the General Assembly passed, which is absurd. First of all, the Attorney General doesn't do the prosecuting, the DAs do. But also, a little statute to let you get at a particular aspect of drug pushers is not changing the situation. The situation we have with fentanyl is a byproduct. It also is, it doesn't happen by coincidence or fluke. It's a result of the nation's borders being eradicated in practical effect. And we've made the United States government the logistics arm of the international drug cartels. And that's got to change. So you've got to...
That's a big job for a North Carolina Attorney General to tackle.
And so here's what, you can't do the whole job from any office. That's got to get to federal immigration law has to be enforced by the administration, and hopefully it'll be Donald Trump and his folks. But and attorneys general have had, some have done some efforts nationally to litigate to try to restore some of the policy that the Congress has required and the administration has avoided. But ultimately, what I can do as Attorney General on fentanyl, assuming we resume enforcing our borders, is to urge and ultimately enforce cooperation between North Carolina's law enforcement sheriffs and the mechanics of the machinery of federal immigration law enforcement.
I'm going to get back to some of the issues in just a second, but it does strike me, and I'm interested in your take. We've elected governors statewide, U.S. Senate. We now have 2 U.S. senators that are Republicans, Supreme Court. For some reason, the Attorney General job has evaded Republicans. I think the last one was elected more than 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Over the last 2 cycles, Democrats blew out the Republican opponent in spending. The last Republican nominee was outspent 25-1 and only lost by 0.2%. One reason I've left Congress voluntarily when I had a safe seat I could retain was because I believed I could make that change, and we have. We're not at parity, but we have ample resources to be heard.
You've touched on some of those national issues like the border. I believe you told the Observer that you would be looking to challenge any what you'd call legally dubious national decisions. Now, some people might hear that and they might think you're going to pull the state into these high-profile, political issues that the state doesn't necessarily be involved in. I assume you don't see it that way.
I don't see it that way at all. In fact, what I think we've seen increasingly, and another factor that has drawn me to, what I've said so far is that my top priority is criminal justice system operating, functioning efficiently. Frankly, that's a centrist idea. It's not, my opponent says I'm an extremist, but that is centrism. The rest of it, the rest of the picture is likewise, I think, centrist. Our law is not a function that the legal officer of the state, the Attorney General, his obligation is to the law, not picking and choosing which laws, not articulating policy positions and then taking an antagonistic position as a counterweight to the elected legislature. That is actually undermines our constitutional system. The Attorney General, his sole responsibility is to pursue the law, to defend the law of his state and the people through the law. And I think that's the opposite of the ideological manipulation of law that I believe has been in the hands of attorneys general like Letitia James of New York, who did something unprecedented in American history when she ran for a position clothed with prosecutorial or investigative authority and vowed that she would use that authority to target a particularly despised political enemy. Now, a lot of people may despise that political enemy I'm describing,
yes,
but that phenomenon ought to concern everyone.
But see, you're talking about something. I was on a panel a few weeks ago with some folks, and we talked about the over-nationalization of our politics. And
yes.
But it seems like you're talking about that, and you're talking about a New York Attorney General when...
Oh, the nationalization, as if
yeah.
it's a... Well, what I think I'm describing
when
is
there's local issues here that...
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's certainly true. Maybe what you're getting at is, should the Attorney General stay out of national fights?
Yeah.
And I don't know that... I don't think so necessarily. I do. Okay. I think, and right before we went on, we were talking about Congress sort of being stuck and stagnated. One function of Congress being sort of in a stalemate for so long is that federal power has been exercised through administrative agency rulemaking. They make law in the bureaucracies. That also is, frankly, something of a corruption of the way our system's supposed to work, where Congress is supposed to make the law. But as they've been more and more bodacious, aggressive in doing that, state attorneys general have appeared as a national force in litigation to stop or to control that in order to protect the rights and freedoms of their own people. That is an appropriate role for the attorney general, in my view. It ought to be designed to function in terms of where the law is, not to take on people, not pick and choose among the law to suit one's ideological objectives.
One final question. Critics say you want to ban abortion. I don't think that's capable of the Attorney General role as it currently is in the state constitution. But I do think it's a fair question because you're going to have a conservative state Supreme Court. You've got a conservative General Assembly, maybe even a supermajority still. I do think it's fair to ask your stance. Do you support the current 12-week ban as it stands in North Carolina?
This is extremely important, and it's consistent with every answer I've given in this conversation so far. The role of the Attorney General is to respect and enforce all law. So that would include the legislature's choice to do that 12-week position. I will not, and I cannot conceive of any way an appropriately operating Attorney General could change that. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't think it's appropriate for the Attorney General to go attack the law or to invite partisan plaintiffs to come in to do friendly litigation to try to change the law. That's the wrong approach to the Attorney General's office. I will abide the law. I will not be a policy maker. The policy makers are the legislators, and people should elect who they want to the legislature.
Congressman, thanks for coming on.
Good to be with you, Ben.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Up next on Flashpoint, former President Donald Trump spoken about the enemy from within during recent rallies, but does he really plan to take action against folks who disagree with him if he wins? We verify coming up next.